Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Spacing Out. I'm Jason McClellan.
And I'm Maureen Elsberry. Thanks for joining us.
Guess what, Maureen? Today is our birthday.
No, wait, Jason.
Okay.
Tomorrow is our birthday, and the reason I know that is because it's May 4th, Star Wars Day, which is also coincidentally my
Your
birthday.
Yes, we do share our birthday with your birthday. That's right. 1 year ago, Spacing Out started, so happy birthday to us, I guess. Maureen and I will be talking later in the show about the film Sirius, and Alejandro Rojas will talk to us about his recent interview with the film's producer and with Steven Greer.
But first, we'll get you caught up with some of the stories that were in the news this week.
A man in Perth, Western Australia, claims he has snapped hundreds of photos showing UFOs.
The photographer Rob Hartland discovers the UFOs when reviewing the thousands of photos he takes of the sky. According to Perth Now, Hartland has taken more than 20,000 photos of the daytime sky in the past 6 months.
He reportedly began taking pictures of clouds in November 2012 to test out a new Sony CyberShot DSC RX100 camera. But when he reviews the photos on his computer, he started noticing unidentified objects in some of the shots.
Hartland, who reportedly has a PhD in biochemistry, claims to have identified a dozen different UFOs of varying shapes, including round, square, and saucer-shaped UFOs. On his website, Hartland explains, "These craft are fast-moving and fly at fairly high altitude, as I usually focus the camera on the edges of mid to high altitude clouds. I usually take a series of 20 to 30 photos on continuous shooting mode with a fraction of a second between each photo. When captured, most of the time these craft are present in only one and occasionally two of the series of 20 images. I usually take about 300 images at a time, especially when there are wispy high altitude clouds. On some days, there may be craft present in more than 5% of the photos, although many are too small for enhancing. Now I only look for the really good ones."
Perth Now reports that Sunday Times picture editor Jackson Flindell said Mr. Hartland's images did not appear to have been tampered with, but dust on a digital camera's imaging sensor could cause anomalies in digital photographs, while powerful magnification could also distort images in some cases.
Hartland is careful to point out, "I always say could rather than is. There is always doubt, but UFO stands for unidentified flying object, and as far as I'm concerned, these aren't identified. It's possible some are man-made, but I don't think they all are."
Brazil's Ministry of Defense invited members of the Brazilian Committee of UFO Researchers, or CBU, to a formal meeting with members of the Brazilian Armed Forces. The meeting was held April 18th at the Ministry of Defense headquarters and was attended by representatives from the Brazilian Air Force, Navy, and Army.
The meeting was the result of a petition created during a Brazilian UFO conference held last December and sponsored by the Brazilian UFO magazine. Among other points, the petition asked that the Brazilian government take UFO sightings seriously and that they declassify all of their files regarding UFO investigations. The petition was signed by the 30 speakers at the conference who represented over 15 countries and the 600-plus attendees.
Open Minds had the opportunity to sit down with the Brazilian UFO magazine's editor, AJ Javaiar, at the conference last December to understand the goal behind pushing this meeting forward.
In this conference was to send this message to society that we, the UFO researchers, who acknowledge the materiality of the UFO phenomena, we know that the government also acknowledges that reality and has documents about it.
The meeting was centered on access to military documents regarding UFO investigations, and although the Brazilian government has released more than 4,500 documents, some of the files regarding the more famous cases have yet to be declassified.
The Secretary for the Ministry's Institutional Coordination and Organization, Ari Matos, reassured the group that the documents are going through the proper procedures for release and will be released in accordance to Brazil's Access to Information Act, or LAI.
The meeting lasted about 75 minutes and everyone seemed satisfied with the results. Mateos told reporters, "LAI has opened to the general public the possibility of accessing a great deal of information produced by the government. A regular means of contact must be created to suit the needs of both the UFO researchers and society in general."
There's a new space-based tool launching in 5 years that will search for extraterrestrial life.
A new study suggests that white dwarf stars can support habitable planets. Red Orbit explains that researchers demonstrated that it should be possible to detect biomarkers surrounding these habitable planets, including methane and oxygen, that indicate the presence of life using advanced technology that will become available in the next decade.
This advanced technology will be aboard NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, or JWST, that is scheduled to launch in 2018. According to the Daily Galaxy, Professor Avi Loeb, director at the Harvard University Institute for Theory and Computation, who led the recent study, explains, "In the quest for extraterrestrial biological signatures, the first stars we study should be white dwarfs." Professor Dan Maus of Tel Aviv University, who is part of the research team, agrees with Loeb. He states that by using the JWST to examine planets orbiting white dwarf stars, if all the conditions are right, we'll be able to detect signs of life.
JWST is designed to look into the infrared region of the light spectrum where such biomarkers are prominent, making it an ideal instrument for hunting out signs of life on exoplanets. JWST will also be able to analyze the atmosphere of Earth-like planets without weeding out the similar signatures of Earth's own atmosphere, because it'll be space-based and not ground-based. The team's study was published in the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society.
The film Sirius was released last week on Monday, April 22nd. This is the movie that focuses on the work of Dr. Steven Greer. And the tagline for the film reads, "The question is not, do they exist? The question is, how are they getting here? It is time for you to know." This film was crowdfunded by donations, and the film bills itself as a film by the people, for the people.
Sirius has received mixed reviews, and there's been a lot of discussion about the tiny humanoid presented in the film, and criticism over seemingly misleading statements by the filmmakers who assert that the humanoid is extraterrestrial. Here now is Alejandro Rojas, who recently interviewed the film's producer, J.D. Seraphine, and Dr. Steven Greer to talk with them about Sirius. Alejandro?
Thank you, Jason and Maureen. This week, there's been a lot of debate on the Sirius documentary, and we went to the heart of the controversy and interviewed the movie's producer, J.D. Seraphine, and we were lucky enough to catch up with Dr. Steven Greer, who was at the citizen hearing on disclosure this week. We asked him about the testimony that he gave at the hearing, and we also asked him his thoughts about the movie. It was in the film, and I looked to clarify, and I communicated a little bit with Dr. Nolan. He seems pretty convinced that at least what he's satisfied that it's human. Do you still hold out the possibility that it could be of extraterrestrial origin?
Let me explain science for a moment, so everyone listen carefully. Dr. Nolan has not done the genetic analysis fully enough to rule in or out anything. Now, there is human genetic material in the genome. However, the genes that would control for dwarfism, this is a 6 to 8 year old, according to the world's expert on this, Dr. Lockman at Stanford. So if it's a 6 to 8 year old child, how did it live for 6 to 8 years in the remote Atacama Desert, probably in the 1800s or earlier?
J.D. Seraphine, the producer of the movie, also talked to me about how he met Dr. Steven Greer and what inspired him to make the movie. How did you first become aware of Dr. Greer and his work?
It was, interestingly enough, there was a project that RRD has developed that him and I were working on actually about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, that was involving similar subject matter. And they had approached Dr. Greer to be a consultant on the film because of his background and experience as, one of the more respected researchers in the field. And it just turned out Dr. Greer wanted to do a documentary, and we thought, yeah, we definitely. I mean, in the initial meeting, and Arm can tell the story a little better than I can, but essentially Arm was like, "You should do a documentary," and Dr. Greer was like, "I want to do a documentary." So we decided to move forward and to, after some back and forth and figuring out how we were going to get it off the ground, decided to give crowdfunding a try, which was obviously, very successful, most highly, the highest amount of money raised for a documentary crowdfunding yet.
The Atacama humanoid has been a controversial topic, and I asked Dr. Greer some of the tougher questions around it. You can watch both of these full-length interviews on our YouTube channel. We've also been a primary source of information on this Atacama humanoid and will continue to do so. So stay tuned to openminds.tv and definitely check the Open Minds YouTube channel for the latest. Back to you, Jason and Maureen.
Thanks, Alejandro.
Thanks. So Maureen and I had a chance to watch this film, and Maureen, we haven't talked about it yet, but what are your general initial thoughts about the film?
Well, I do feel like segmented in between a lot of hoopla, there were a few good points in the film, but a lot of it was older information. I think that a lot of the more disclosure stuff they had in there was interesting. However, I do think there was a lot of hype. It did seem like an advertisement for CSETI.
Yeah, that's my impression. It did seem more of an advertisement for the various projects that Steven Greer is involved in, and an ad for CSETI, for sure. They really hyped that up. I know there are a lot of people who have contacted us, and we've seen a lot of people who did participate in funding this project. They feel kind of gypped.
Yeah.
Because they put in money to this project. As we said, they build it as really pushing forward this greatest story that's never been told, and pushing out new information and trying to appeal to the general public to present some of this incredible information that exists. But I think the film fell really short in doing that. They kind of glossed over some of the really important information that could appeal to a mainstream crowd,
right?
And focused a lot on the CE5 and the different things that Steven Greer does, and focused a lot on Steven Greer as a person, and really pumped up the drama and the fear he has that people are going to try to take him out because of what he knows, and also talking about the military-industrial complex and hinting that other people have been assassinated for what they know or what they've said. So there's a lot of really playing on fear added to this movie too, without a lot of content.
And that's gonna be really the tough part, is the idea that the CE5 stuff and the meditating in the desert and calling in UFOs, well, that's going to be really hard for the general public to swallow.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of people are complaining that, I mean, this was, I think, the top documentary for donations. Supposedly, all the proceeds from this film are going to fund a free energy lab for Dr. Greer.
I mean, it's interesting to see the reactions, and they are mixed. There are plenty of people, and Steven Greer has a lot of supporters, a lot of people who believe what he's doing. Again, my favorite part of the film, certainly a lot of old information from the Disclosure Project. I think that's the most important thing that Dr. Greer's done. I think his efforts since then have kind of gone away from that. But that's my personal opinion. I know a lot of people support all of his efforts, and that's great, and those people seem to really enjoy the movie.
And then there's Ada the humanoid.
Yes, Ada the humanoid, the little guy. So, and he was a little guy apparently. So it's interesting, and a lot of questions remain as to what the real motives were behind the filmmakers. And even in the film, there are multiple people who refer to Ada as an extraterrestrial, or an EBE, an extraterrestrial biological entity.
It's strange, but it's not that abnormal.
Right. There are, and the doctors pointed out that there are abnormalities, and this is what I like to call the whole ancient alien syndrome, where people like to take something that we can't, that's strange to us or we can't exactly explain, and automatically credit it to extraterrestrials. And that's what a lot of people are doing in this case.
Right.
90-something%, that's how sure the doctor is that it's human, and he doesn't even doubt that it's human. He just acknowledges that there are lots of abnormalities here that they can't explain, that are bizarre, they haven't encountered before, but that doesn't mean extraterrestrial.
Yes, I know. And I think we're going to see a lot more about this before the doors finally shut on this. And we actually have a large wealth of information on the website about Ada, and Alejandro was able to talk to Dr. Nolan, and I think some more things are going to be revealed that people maybe...
There are more investigations underway with this little creature, and as we pointed out on our website, we've got the whole history of this thing. This isn't a new discovery. Doctors have done examinations on this creature before. So we've got the history, and there are things developing right now that are going to shed more light on this little creature. So you're right, it's going to be ongoing for a while. And people have their opinions, and they're going to stick with what they want to believe. So
yes, everyone will stick to their opinions, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. Well, overall, yeah, Sirius I thought was a disappointment. It didn't live up to the hype or the promises that it made, I think.
I agree with you.
It was going to reveal this greatest story never told, and talk more about, I thought that they were going to get more into the CE5 stuff too, because they explained they were going to tell people how to do that and how to make contact and stuff, but in the end, it said, go to our website and find out how you can be part of this. So
pay $5,000 and come
really,
out with
again,
us
an
into
advertisement is what it served as. It didn't tell people how. It said, go to our website and we'll show you how you can pay money, and then we'll show you.
Yeah.
So anyway, I know people had their own opinions. I'd love to hear your opinion about it, so do post that in the comments so we can hear what you thought about Sirius. If you haven't seen it yet, we do have the ability to watch it on our website, openminds.tv. So check that out if you're interested. Well, that is all for this episode of Spacing Out. Be sure to visit openminds.tv for all the latest news. And if you're a podcast listener, go to openminds.tv/radio and check out Open Minds UFO Radio.
We love hearing what you have to say, so leave your comments below and click on the like button if you enjoyed today's show. And remember to subscribe to the Open Minds YouTube channel. We're constantly uploading interesting video content in addition to Spacing Out. So thanks again for joining us today. I'm Maureen Elsberry.
And I'm Jason McClellan. We'll see you in the future.